Hello, welcome back to the Eyes Up Life podcast with your host, Ben Granis. This is week 2. This is exciting. We have a completely new guest on the podcast, and he is awesome. His name is Adam Campbell. Last week we had the world's greatest supercross racer. This week we have a professional photographer and videographer named Adam Campbell. I forget if I said Adam Campbell already, so we're going to say it again, and you're going to hear him introduce himself in just a few minutes. This conversation's awesome. Hopefully you've already checked out the video that was cut up and produced on Instagram or on the Maxxis Tires YouTube page. Either way, make sure you follow Eyes Up Ride on Instagram, Maxxis Tires on Instagram, and subscribe to Maxxis Tires on YouTube and the Eyes Up Life podcast wherever you're listening to this right now, so you don't miss the next 19 episodes after this. That'll be rolling out throughout 2023. So before I cut over to the conversation with Adam, I just wanted to share a little bit of background on what Eyes Up is. In 2021, I wrapped up working at a summer camp in Massachusetts and set out on a 7,000-mile bike ride around the United States to raise awareness for distracted driving and digital wellness. And along the way, I fundraised $42,000 for a nonprofit called Text Less, Live More, and spread the good word about the Eyes Up mission. Look, listen, live with people that I stayed with, people on the side of the road, and everywhere in between. And now I'm working on getting into the public speaking space, so speaking to young people, organizations, communities, and doing projects like this one with Maxxis Tires, athletes, and affiliates. So back in late October, I went on a 6,000-mile road trip in a truck this time to interview 21 of these Maxxis Tires, athletes, and affiliates, and did all of the recording, video production, and interviewing all by myself. So now these conversations are getting turned into beautifully edited videos, not by myself, but by a third party that Maxxis has kindly hired to do this. I have no experience with, well, that's not true. I have very little video editing experience and am not very efficient. So know your strengths and outsource when you need to. So these conversations that I had over 4 weeks in the late fall are now getting turned into these beautiful videos and these lovely podcasts that you're listening to now. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And not only are these conversations benefiting the general community and hopefully making our roads safer for everyone, all users of the road, but they are incredibly interesting to, it's fascinating to get a peek into the lives of these athletes and professionals in worlds that I don't know a whole lot about. So hopefully you get as much out of these as I did while I was actually talking to these people. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Adam Campbell. Oh, and here's a little bit of background. Shortly after this chat I had with Adam, we went on an incredible bike ride in the hills of Western LA. We were on the Mulholland Highway for a while. That's a classic one. Lots of expensive cars driving like not good drivers, and but yeah, so beautiful, fun to get out on a ride with someone who loves biking like I do. And yeah. Anyways, okay, conversation with Adam. Enjoy it. Bye-bye. Let's start by having you just introduce yourself and say where you're from.
Okay. My name's Adam Campbell. I'm a commercial photographer based out of Southern California. Avid cyclist. We're here in Westlake, California at the Stonehouse, which is a restaurant that a lot of, like myself and my cycling friends, that we leave out of here pretty much every weekend. To ride here is a pretty special area. I mean, first of all, the grounds here are amazing. The restaurant's great. As far as the cycling goes, I mean, you can just climb for days. We have a ton of different loops that we get to do out here. Big climbs, small climbs, descents, go down to the beach. It's a great place to ride. And for me, there's safety in numbers. So every time I ride here, there's always a group to ride with. And I'm not saying that the cars out here are any better than anywhere else, but at least they're aware that we ride out here because it's such a heavy cycling community out in this neck of the woods. So it's a great place.
Are you from out here, Adam? Or where are you from?
Yeah, I live in Sherman Oaks, so I have to drive about 30 minutes to get here. And again, I really don't dare to ride where I live. It's definitely not a cycling friendly area compared to here, so I have to drive.
So tell me about your young life and how you got into photography. Like, where did you grow up and how did you get into it?
Great, actually kind of a cool story. So I grew up racing ATVs. I was a pro ATV racer for about 10 years. I've been racing since I was a kid. And how I got into photography is I was actually in front of the camera as a test rider for an ATV magazine for quite a while. At the time, I was working in the movie industry, doing special effects. I always enjoyed photography. I always had a camera with me. Did I think it was going to turn into a profession? No, I didn't know. So I was a test writer for a magazine for quite a while in front of the camera, and I became really good friends with the editor at the time. And he said, hey, when you're not doing anything, why don't you buy a camera and you come shoot for us on the side? You know, you seem to know what you want and what you're looking for as a racer. You know, so it was a pretty cool time because back then they paid for my film, and I learned on film, and I learned on black and white, which is what they had me shoot on for the first year. And so I really learned the craft of photography. And, you know, I did make a lot of money doing it. I'd make 25 bucks here, 30 bucks here selling photos. And what I would do is I would just put it back into my camera systems, you know, just buy a flash, buy a lens, buy a filter, whatever. And so that's what kind of led into my photography career. And I did that from the, 90s till about 2000. In 2000, I finally decided, like, you know what? I want to get out of the movie industry. I want to be a photographer. And at that time, I had enough money saved up to support myself for a year. And I'm like, let's give this photography thing a try. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, well, then I got to figure something out. Back then when I started, there was actually a lot of magazine publications to shoot for. And it seems like, now there's hardly anything. Everything's online, everything's Instagram. I can appreciate where it went. I'm not saying that I like it. I really liked having magazines and exclusivity deals with certain magazines, not to go to the competition, and that stuff just doesn't exist anymore. And actually, my first client was Maxxis, so I'm going back maybe 15 years ago, and that's how I started with them.
And so, what was your track like with Maxxis? Like, what were you?
Maxxis. So, they actually sponsored me when I was racing. They were giving me my tires for my quad, and so that's how I started my relationship with them. And then when I started shooting for the magazines, a guy over there, I think, started taking notice to some of my photos and contacted me, and he's like, hey, would you like to shoot an ad for us? I'm like, yeah, I didn't really, that was pretty exciting. I never shot an ad specifically for a company, and I shot it, and it ran in the magazine as a 2-page spread or even full-page spread, a full page. And that's how kind of my photography career with Maxxis started. And since then, I've been through a bunch of different people that have taken over the position of, media relations or PR or whatever that department may be. And so luckily they've been contacting me, throughout all the different changes, which I feel pretty lucky about. I mean, for me, Maxxis has been just such an awesome company to support me, like on my racing, and giving me a lot of opportunities to shoot a lot of cool products, meet a lot of great athletes, and also take care of, they've been taking care of me as far as like my cycling goes with tires and everything, which I feel, super lucky to even have that kind of a contact. I mean, they have an amazing product and a very diverse line of tires, and so it's been a great company to shoot for.
And so, how about your life now? What's your career looking like, and where are you at?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, COVID was definitely almost took me out. I mean, I had 2 years of barely any work, so it was for a freelance photographer and someone who owns a small production company. It was pretty difficult. Luckily, I made it past that. Up before that point, I was actually really busy. I was shooting a lot for Kawasaki. I was with them for about 7 years, maybe. I shot all of their press launches, all of their, a lot of their brochure work, some studio work, some video work. So I had a great stint with them. I've been with Yamaha for quite a few years, shooting a lot of their press launches as well, and different things for them. Maxxis, obviously. I have some outside the industry stuff. Bicycle stuff, I was shooting for Bianchi, was shooting for Yamaha bicycles. I did some work for Cannondale, a couple little things here and there for Trek. So I'm trying to do a little bit more in the bicycle industry because now it's kind of my passion, it's my hobby, and I want to be able to at least share my vision with people of how I view bicycles and the lifestyle and the technology and everything that goes along with it.
Tell me about what you enjoy about the work that you do and why you've
Man.
stayed with it for so long.
Great question. I love photography, and for me, it started out as a hobby, which turned into an obsession, which turned into a passion. And even though I am a full-time photographer, I still enjoy going out and shooting photos. It's something that I'm still learning. I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I'm still learning, and I'm never going to stop learning. And I'm the first person who'll say that I get kind of bored with my style, and I try to change it and be up with the times, and I do a lot of research on other photographers on what they're doing, what the trends are. And I don't like to copy other photographers, but at least it gives me an idea of what the style is by what ads and images are being used. And for me, I think one of the special things about photography is that it's as close as you can get to looking out of somebody else's eyes and how they view something, whether it's a bicycle or a Coke can or just a scene. It's like there's no right or wrong way to shoot a photo. It's like that's how you vision what you're seeing. And I tell people that a camera is simply a device to capture how one envisions a subject. So for me, there's something pretty special about seeing other people's work on how they view something, and it's just something I enjoy. And I try to, I've had a lot of big shoots. I've been very fortunate, and there's been a lot of stress involved and a lot of people and a lot of money. And it definitely takes the fun out of it a little bit because there's so much at stake. I still enjoy it. I do like those big productions, but for the small shoots that I go out with, like a cyclist or a motorcycle, and we go out and we talk and we have fun and we take it seriously but not too seriously, like that's what I really enjoy. It's just me and a buddy and a subject. Let's just go out and create. And if my writer or subject is having a good time, it's going to show on film or digital. And that's something to me that makes me happy.
So you mentioned a growing passion for cycling. Talk to me about how you got into cycling and where you're at now.
So how I got into cycling, I think like most racers, it's like once you kind of retire from racing, you need something else to do because that competitiveness never goes away. And my racing career played a pretty big part of my life as far as now it got me my career. And so when I was working with a magazine, I hooked up with a guy, Bill Riddell, and he worked for Cannondale at the time. And Cannondale also came out with a motorcycle and an ATV at the time. So when they first started coming to us, he approached us when I worked at Dirt Wheels magazine. Hey, you guys got to come check out this new quad and da 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 da. So we went out. I think we flew out to Pennsylvania, maybe. I might be wrong, but we checked out the quad. We got to ride it, and that's when I also got introduced to Cannondale. And he let me borrow a mountain bike, and I cruised around. And I've always been into bicycles. Since I was a kid, BMX, and that's what we did when I got home from school. We jumped on our bikes, we found jumps, we found curbs, and we just started riding. And that's what it was about. And so it's like, I kind of started my career with bikes, and now I'm like ending my career with cycling. And it's your first, I guess, real source of freedom as a kid. And as an adult, it still is. It's like you can get away from life, and you can get on your bike, and it's competitive. you meet friends. It's a great thing. But back to how I got into cycling. So he took me on my first road bike ride, and we actually left here from the Stone House, and we did like a 20-mile loop. And after that, I was kind of hooked. And so I think now we're going back, I don't know, 15 to 18 years ago. And I'm still leaving out of here. I'm still doing that same loop. And that's how I kind of got introduced to at least road bikes, was through him and through Cannondale. And, again, it's just such an awesome sport. And it's not, it doesn't matter how old you are. Like, I've gotten my butt kicked seriously by guys way into their 60s and into their 70s. So it's kind of motivating to know that you can do this for a long time.
Right. Yeah. I same thing for me. Like just riding with people who are over twice my age and like getting absolutely destroyed. It's so crazy.
It's humbling.
What?
It's humbling.
Yeah, very humbling.
It's humbling.
But also really encouraging knowing that your body can continue, if you maintain it and still exercise and stuff, you're able to maintain a high level of fitness.
And that's the other thing too, the obviously you don't want to crash, but the getting older, the cardio, the strength, the stuff you need just to survive, like it's all there. I mean, it's great. I'll be 51 in December, and every year I go to the doctor and get my checkup, and they're just like, get out of here, we love you. And for me, that's definitely a big part of it is the health benefits from cycling as well. Not just the fun, but you're having fun and you're doing a lot of good things for your body. You're strengthening your heart, and you're strengthening your body and your legs, and it also teaches you the pain, how to get past pain and be stronger both physically and mentally. So I think with cycling comes a lot of benefits to the sport as well, not just going out and riding. And some of them you might realize, and some of them you might not realize, all the things that are going on with your body. And you learn a lot about yourself, heart rate zones. You learn a lot about your body. Once you do it long enough, you can pretty much guess your heart rate as you're riding and how you feel. So, there's a lot. And again, like photography, you never stop learning with cycling.
You mentioned that cycling was really like it's the first source of freedom as a child, and I want to get into young people and how growing up has sort of changed with the introduction of cell phones and all of that. So first, tell me about like what growing up was like for you. Were you outside all the time? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Again, this is a subject that I kind of enjoy talking about, but it also kind of upsets me. When I was a kid, I'd come home from school and it was like, get with your buddies. There's no TV. It was getting on our bikes. It was riding. It was having rock fights. It was picking oranges off my mom's tree and throwing them at each other, building sketchy ramps. And literally, I remember taking milk crates and like a piece of wood about this big and making a ramp and starting at the top of my street with flip-flops on and shorts and no helmet and hitting that ramp as fast as I can. Would I do that now? No way. Would I change how I grew up doing that stuff? No way. I have a 14-year-old daughter right now, and it's interesting to see the differences. Like, for a while, she was just stuck on video games. And a lot of my parent friends, same thing. All their kids, they'd come home from school, and they're on their video games, and that's all they do. And for me, as an athlete my whole life, and my wife, an athlete as well, we kind of look at each other and we're like, is this our kid? Like, how is this? We've got her into sports and gymnastics and different things, and she keeps busy with softball now, which we're happy about. But again, I think I look at kids today and how I was. Again, I bring up the thing, I'd much rather see her go out with her friends and have a rock fight kind of thing. I mean, I can't have it. I had my head split open and stitches, and that was the way to grow up, and now it's just the video game. And I had a friend explain it to me one way. She said, it's instant gratification without having to get up and work for it. And to me, I thought about that for a minute, and I was like, it makes sense, but again, I don't know. I never got into video games. I loved being outside, and I loved playing with my friends. And even now, I can't wait. I mean, I'm 50 years old, and I can't wait to go get out my bike with my friends. And it's like the same phone calls being made now as it was back then. You call your friends up, hey, you want to ride? So it's kind of funny. That phone call hasn't changed for me in 40 some odd years, I'm still making that same phone call, whether it was going racing or something. Hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? Want to ride? And I still do that, and I still get excited about it, and I still look forward to riding my bike. And going back to the, some people, I'll tell them a hill I climbed or how far I ride, 60 miles, 100 miles, whatever, and they're like, that just doesn't sound fun. And yeah, there's times that it's not fun. What do you get out of it? And I'm like, when you climb to the top of the mountain and you either PR it or you just do it with a friend, you have that sense of accomplishment. And for me, that's what I enjoy. The suffering sucks. There's no doubt about it. Cycling at times can suck. But when you get to the top and you finish it and you go back down to where you start and you have some food with your friends afterwards and you're hanging out and telling lies and all that stuff, that's what it's about. And that's what makes me feel like at least I accomplished something that day. Even in photography, I need that sense of accomplishment, and cycling definitely adds to that. And as far as the whole cell phone things and everything goes, like, yes, I couldn't do what I do with my career and everything else without cell phones. And I think that goes for all of us. Calendars, text messages, emails, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. It's a part of our lives and it's not going away. Our computers are linked to our phones. I think it takes, I love the phone and I hate it at the same time. I can appreciate the technology and what it's here to do for us, but I hate what it's taken away from society and how people portray social media as those are the standards that I have to set myself to. I do it. We all do it. And that's just, you have to change with the times. But with that comes a lot of negative stuff. I mean, people only put on there what they want you to see, and they show you the best of everything, and you think, wow, my life, this isn't it. But it's kind of like your own personal TV show. You make it to what you want, and it's not real. So, yeah, I have my love and hate with technology.
What are some, you kind of touched on this, but what are some things that are really good in your view about social media, and what are things that are not, and how can we sort of change course with those? Or can we?
I think the benefits to social media, like for me as a photographer, it's my way that I can reach out to the world to show them my craft and what I do. It is kind of like a check me out kind of thing, and I get sucked into that as well. So it's like, certain people I follow, it's like, look at me, look what I'm doing, and it's only these great, awesome things. And yeah, we don't want to show the bad things. I mean, some people do, like, hey, my father passed away, and maybe it's a way to grieve and to get feedback, like it's going to be okay with all the comments and stuff like that. But for me as a photographer, Instagram is definitely a powerful tool to link you together with clients, athletes, people around the world to show them what you do. I mean, you have great feedback from people, and you also, of course, have the haters. There's no shortage of that. It's hard not to take something like that personally sometimes, because photography is such a personal thing. At least to me it is, and I think I can speak for most photographers as well. So yeah, there are benefits to it. The downside of this is the distractions that come along with it. Unfortunately, those distractions take place in a car a lot of times. So for me as a cyclist, this is a big deal. And it's a big deal for anybody that drives a car. You know when someone's texting or doing something stupid. So the fact that someone's life can end in a split second because of one message, and look, I'm guilty of it too. I try not to, especially as a cyclist. I'm a little bit more sensitive to that subject, but there are a lot of downsides of it. It's like, even when you're hanging out with people, they're on their phone. I mean, sometimes you recognize people by the top of their head because they're always on their damn phone. Again, I am guilty of that as well. It's something that I think is, that's definitely, people are attached to this device now, and I think it's just taken away from everything. And it's very influential when it comes to politics and everything else. It's just, everything's driven towards what we see on this phone now. So it's definitely has a lot of downsides to it as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that our phones are distractions inside the car, and I want to talk about distractions outside of the car in a second. But while we're on the car subject, when you're driving and you feel tempted or are, first of all, I appreciate you being open about we're all guilty of distractions in the car.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you being open about that,
Yeah.
not saying like, oh, I don't ever do it.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
can't
not
say
true.
that.
No. What are the things that distract you when you're driving, and like what are the things that will pull your attention off the road?
Definitely the phone. I mean, for sure. It's there's a thing where it's almost a habit to where every few minutes you get sucked into like, I gotta go check Instagram, I gotta check something else. We all do it. The distraction is the dings. I think it definitely triggers something in our minds that like we have to reply right away, and if we don't, we're blowing that person off. At least now with technology, it sort of helps. Like on my car, it goes into the screen, so I can literally hit a button, which now I know where they're at. So it's not like I really have to glance over, and it'll voice text me, and I can voice back. That seems to help. So at least the car companies are kind of acclimating to technology and the safety aspect of it. Something I try to do is like, obviously I'm not going to answer a text message going around a curvy canyon. If I'm on a freeway and it's open and everything's flowing nicely and I feel that it is a safe time to maybe glance down or send a message out, yeah, I'm guilty of that. But I do try to take into consideration my surroundings when I'm doing that,
Yeah, and I totally understand the rationale behind like when you're going on a straight freeway and there's no one really on the road to feel like it's totally fine to be texting. And I think ideally we get everyone to just, when they're in the car, nothing on your phone is that important. So I'm curious to hear like what would it take for you or for the average American who is guilty of using their phone in the car to just fully disengage from the phone distractions while you're in the car?
You know what? It's so difficult. I mean, everybody is so tuned to have to be. We're in the day and age of communication, and everything's got to be instantaneous. And I think that's pounded in our head. What would take people away from that? That's a difficult question. I think it has to do with each individual person. Having to either have a close call, unfortunately, to scare them, to say, okay, this is not cool, something can happen. But again, with time, that memory of, oh, I almost got in an accident kind of subsides, and then you start again. So I think it just comes with self-discipline, and again, as a cyclist, I'm very sensitive to it, even though, again, I'm guilty of it. I think most of us are, but I am definitely more aware of it than anything else, and I try to do, for me, like at a stoplight or if there's no traffic around, there's definitely a time and place to, I'm not saying that's really right to do it, but there is a better time to do it than, I think, not in traffic, not bumper to bumper unless you're full, there's a lot of things. But how do people disengage? That's a tough one. I think it's really difficult for people to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, like, what would you say the same thing that you just told me if I was instead someone who like lost their parents to a distracted driver?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again,
Like, would you say like there's better times? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Because this is a hard thing to.
It is a very hard thing, and realistically, if you're in a car, you shouldn't be texting. I mean, again, you can pull off the road if it's urgent and you see it pop up on your screen, or if you're waiting for a message and it pops up. Yeah, the right thing to do is to pull over and make that call or send that text message out. Talking to somebody whose parents, or I can't imagine, there was just a big accident right down the street from here that made news. Some woman who worked for a hospital killed 2 kids just down the street from here. And it made news all around the place, like literally 2 miles from here. And I think for that particular one, she was drinking. I'm not really sure. But again, that's distraction. So, but the fact is, on her conscience now, she's killed 2 people, and now she's going to jail for the rest of her life. Was it worth it? No. No, human life is precious, and we have one time on this earth. And again, hearing myself say this, and now getting older and seeing people around you pass away at an early age or get killed, or riding your bike and seeing a white bike on the side of the road, and it definitely hits home for sure.
Right.
And for me, again, I'm guilty of it here and there, but I try to be as safe as I can and do it at a time where I know that myself or somebody else isn't in jeopardy of a crash.
Right. Yeah, and I again see where you're coming from, Adam. I think the goal is to have everyone understand that, I don't think the culture. You mentioned drinking while driving. Distracted driving is just it's actually deadlier than drunk driving.
Yeah.
But the culture hasn't shifted the way that drunk
Yeah.
driving has, because now it's not socially acceptable to have a beer in the car while you're driving.
Right.
So I don't think the culture is going to shift to a point where distracted driving deaths are decreasing until people understand that, or accept and embody that you should not and could not be using your phone in the car, even if it's safer, because yes, 99% of the time when you're on that highway or if you're at a red light using your phone, probably nothing will happen. But if variables line up in such a way, that could still result in the death.
I mean, to answer your question, how to enforce this? Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of TV commercials, don't text and drive. There's been a lot of news coverage. This person was killed. This person was killed, all because of something so stupid as sending a text message. I think, in my opinion, the only way to really stop something like this is for the companies to have, we're all located, all the phones have GPSs. They know whether you're moving or not. Is that, could this become a law? Maybe. They've already passed the first law. I remember when text messages started happening, it was only a matter of time before they passed a law on no texting and driving. I think the only way to permanently stop this is that if the cell phone companies or manufacturers of cell phones have it when the phone is moving, the messages get automatically put on hold until you come to a stop or something. Other than that, I don't know how else we can enforce this. I mean, how many people is it going to take, cyclists, people, kids, to get killed before it reaches the masses? I mean, unfortunately, drunk drivers have been killing people since time has begun. Has it helped? All the commercials and all the spots and all the horrible news that you see on the 10 o'clock news every night? No, it hasn't done anything. But that's a person's choice whether they're going to go drink and make this stupid mistake and go out behind a wheel. As far as not being able to make that mistake on texting, yeah, the cell phone companies, manufacturers, Apple, Android, everything else, they could put a stop to it. Are they going to get a lot of negative feedback from that? Oh, sure. It's going to go into these are my rights and da-da-da-da-da. That can open up another can of worms. But can it be stopped? Yeah, the cell phone companies could put a stop to it. That's the only way I think it can work. It's like having a breathalyzer in your car. It won't start if you're reaching it,
Right.
And is that fair? Or is that going into somebody's rights to do something? I don't know. But in my opinion, that's the only way it could get stopped.
Well, you can make the counter argument, is choosing to not pay attention to driving and killing someone an invasion of their rights to live.
And that's just it. I think it's yeah. I mean, I have no right to take away somebody's life, and neither does this person. And,
right.
That would live with me horribly if I killed somebody. Not to mention, now my life's done. I'm going to be in jail for the rest of my life.
Right.
Was it worth it?
And your daughter doesn't have a dad.
And my daughter doesn't have a dad. And again, hearing myself say that, you think about it, but to actually hear myself say that, I think instantly it puts things into perspective, like right now in real time. Like, it definitely, sometimes you got to say it to kind of refresh it and put it in your brain. So
right.
It's good to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I definitely can look at it now, again, in another way, just by hearing myself say that. But yeah, I think that's the only way to mass stop it, is by companies saying something's moving. They know whether you're moving or not. Your phone turns off.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a lot of feedback, and I'm sure there's going to be apps where people are just like, can get around it. There's always going to be something like that, but
Yeah, and the frustrating thing for me, Adam, is that your phone has a feature that can automatically silence notifications when you're driving, but they don't turn it on automatically. And most of the people that I've talked to during this project aren't aware of it.
I didn't even know that until I saw it come up on your phone when I was trying to text you. It said something like, he's driving now, I'll get back to you when it stopped. Like, I didn't even know that. Pretty cool.
Are you interested and willing to use it, at least for,
I'd try it out.
Yeah?
And I think, again, I'm guilty of it, and I think everybody is. So I think something like that happens, I think it would be interesting to try it out, for sure.
Can we turn it on now?
Sure, yeah. I'm driving with focus, turn on, okay, cool. Got that, and that's it. All right, let's try it out.
And then, depending on the car, you can have it turn on automatically, like when you connect to your car's Bluetooth or CarPlay, whatever your setup is.
Okay, done. Gonna try it out.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
I think, because I didn't start using it until I started doing my big bike ride to raise awareness for this cause. And the number of conversations that just those automatic text messages have sparked has been really cool, because other people have started using it, and I think it's we have a long way to go to making progress.
Does your message pop up after you stop?
What do you mean?
Like when you get that text message, does it pop up? Or it's there, it just tells people you're driving now?
Yeah, and then it shows up as I have an unread message from Adam when I'm
okay.
done driving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, it's really it's a helpful tool. But yeah, it's a tough problem. But I also really appreciate you, a number of people have said something similar, like verbalizing what the gravity of distracted driving is helpful to realizing it, versus just seeing a statistic like, oh, yep, another person was killed by a distracted driver. Like, there's tons of those,
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're almost numb to that now. It happens so much, and you see it so much, and you hear about it so much, that I think you're almost kind of numb to it, in a sense.
Right.
Which, unless it happens to somebody that you know personally, to where it really digs in deep, I think that's the only other way that, it really sinks in,
Right. Yeah, and the numbness is not helping, because then people feel less.
Well, it's just like everything else. You get used to it, you get accustomed to it. It's no big deal, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just a couple more questions, Adam. I want to talk about your daughter and her relationship to her phone and your observations of that as a parent. Because you mentioned video games, but the phone thing is...
and look, I'm on my phone all the time. I'm searching through Instagram. We've become programmed to just be on our phones all the time. I wish I could personally be better about not being all the time and being more present. I mean, it's definitely an issue. Now that my daughter, she's 14, and during COVID, the video game thing was a good thing, because they couldn't go out with their friends. They would play different games, and they'd meet in a virtual world, and they'd just go around town and screw around in a virtual town and go play games and all that stuff. I get it. It did play its part then. Now she's on her cell phone, iPad, everything else. I don't have her on Instagram yet, but she is a part of Snapchat, and she's always on with her friends. And again, she sees me with it and my wife, and so I guess it kind of makes sense for the kid to be on her phone. And I know it's different times than it was when I was younger, but I would personally like to see, again, sometimes I'll just catch her in a room, she'll stay hours in there just on her phone, either playing games, chatting with her friends. Sometimes it's just FaceTime conversation. Like the other day, they were playing guitar with each other on things. So there's some cool things you can do. Again, just being such an active person, and especially getting older, I still want to go do stuff. Even when I don't feel like it, I force myself to go out and go on a run or a bike ride or work out. I would like to just, it's hard to see, youth these days, because that's what everybody does. They're on their phones all the time. I mean, I've seen a bunch of her friends come over to the house and play, or in school, and they're all on their phones together. And I'm like, what's up with that, And again, we go out with our friends and we show each other's pictures, like, look where I rode, look at my straw, this and that. But to me, that's more associated with activity. This is just their, it's just, I don't know. I just see I just enjoyed growing up, racing, riding my bike, doing gymnastics, all the fun things that I used to do with my friends, and coming home with skinned knees and beat up and tired. Again, different times, we didn't have that technology, but I personally would like to see more, activities, being social, being present with your friends and everybody else. And again, I'm guilty of it too. So I'm saying this, maybe not being so truthful to maybe myself, but I still get out and do stuff. Like I don't sit on my phone all day. When I'm done at the end of the night, yes, I do enjoy sitting on the couch, going through YouTube stuff. Most of the stuff I learn about things like buying a new camera, a new lens, a new bike, it's all done on YouTube. It's done through social media. So, you know, a little give and take there. That's how I personally learn. I'm just not one to picking up books and reading long stuff. I'd rather watch a YouTube tutorial on Photoshop or Premiere or cycling techniques or nutrition or fitness. That's how I get my information. So it has made things a lot easier. And there are a lot of benefits to a phone with voice texting for people who have a hard time spelling, myself, you know, stuff like that. So there are a lot of benefits to it, but I think there's that fine line between too much and not enough, and using it as a tool, using it as fun. You can use the phone for a lot of things, but I think sometimes, and again, when I'm on my bike, that's when I take everything into that there's more to life than just this. And I try to be more present when I'm on location on a photo shoot, to take a couple minutes for myself and just like look around and appreciate the desert or the woods or a location or a rider, or exactly, you know, I was shooting drag racing yesterday, and just appreciating being out, experiencing something, you know? So those things I try to take in a little bit more, and I think that also comes with age, you know?
Do you feel like your daughter and her generation have an understanding of the values that you have from growing up and really appreciate
I don't think
now?
at this age you do. I didn't. You're just very much in the present, and you're thinking about like now, not later. And for me, getting older, I realized that, you know, half of my life has already been lived, and it's been an amazing life, and I wouldn't change anything. But now I'm just trying to, in the world of, we're so divided. I'm not really one to talk about politics, nor do I want to get into it, but we're so divided as people as far as religion, politics, sexuality. Everything's just so, seems like it's very complex right now. So again, it's times like when I'm on my bike, mountain biking, where nothing's interfering with my brain. I'm just in nature with my buddies on my bike. And I think, you know, you're not thinking about that when you're a kid, you know, and I don't think you think about that until a little bit later on in life, unfortunately.
Are you like making efforts to help your daughter appreciate those moments where you feel present and like getting outside?
Yeah, I mean, you know, she's really into softball, so that takes her away from the phone, you know, and you know, we have a batting coach for her, we have a field coach for her, and she practices with the team once a week and plays a game per week, you know. So yeah, we try to encourage that as much as we can, you know. And she does go out, like, you know, today she'll go out, we'll take her to the mall with her friends and let them run around, and we just kind of stay in the background because, again, with how things are, I don't want to just drop her off at a mall being 14 years old. I got to be somewhat around, because if something goes down, you know, dad's got to be there, and mom. So yeah, I mean, obviously we encourage her to go out and do stuff. I mean, I bought her a bike, we bought her skateboards, we bought her scooters, and it works for a week or two, and then everything's just in the corner. It's like, come on, let's go for a bike ride. I'm tired. Meanwhile, I just came back from a 60-mile, 5,000, 6,000 foot climb bike ride. I come home like, let's go for another ride. It's like, hey, look at your old man. I'm 50 years old. Like, I just did 3.5 hours of death. Let's go do something more, you know, and I would do it. It doesn't matter. Like my kid, I came home tired. She wanted to go for a bike ride? Let's do it, you know? So yeah, the encouragement is always there, you know, for sure, especially now that she's at that age, but it's a different time, you know? This is how they grew up. We grew up with no cell phones, to the first cell phone, to, you know, if somebody told me when I was in high school that, hey, we're gonna have a watch that, like James Bond, I'm gonna be able to make phone calls, text messages, do everything I can from a watch, I never would have believed it. And here we are beyond James Bond stuff right now, you know? I mean, today's cell phones have more power than the first spaceship that took astronauts into space. I mean, think about that for a minute. And we all have it. And we have it on our wrist too. I mean, it's crazy.
What's some advice that you would give to a young person who's maybe caught up in the distractions of social media or being encouraged to do something that they don't want to do, and they have this passion that they really want to pursue, but just feels like everyone and everything in their life is pushing them the opposite direction.
I mean, that's just the thing. I think that as far as the cell phone goes, they've keyed into what triggers these endorphins in your brain that you have to keep up with what's here. What I would tell kids is, again, I'm guilty of it too. When you post something, people are gonna have comments. Some of them are gonna be great, some are gonna be not so great. It's hard not to let the negative stuff affect you. You can get a lot of positive reinforcement by the positive comments, like that was a great photo, that was a great ride, but you have to look beyond that. And as a kid, again, me growing up as a racer and everything else, it was an individual sport. I only did as well as I trained or as well as I believed, and I had to go out and earn that. And you have to block out the whole social aspect of what people think of you if you want to succeed in a sport, soccer, motorcycle racing, baseball, softball, whatever it may be. Yeah, there could be team sports, but it comes down to you as an individual, and you have to fight for it. I mean, the people that are in it are competitive, and you're going to get put in your place really quick as an athlete because there's always going to be somebody better than you. I mean, even with my photography, I mean, I have an ego about myself, and I have how I want to portray myself as a photographer, and I only want the best for me and my equipment and what I do for my clients. And it's hard to, you have to fight for that. And it's humbling. There's always somebody better. Just when I think that I'm on top, you go on Instagram and you see another photographer doing certain things and you're just like, man, you get put in your place real quick. And to me, that's what motivates me to fight even harder. And I think kids now really need to look into the negative comments and try to turn it around and put it in their face. I mean, that's what I've done my whole life. Somebody says, he was, even lately, I got my butt kicked by somebody climbing up a hill, and all week long I was mad about that. The following week we went out and rode. No matter how I felt, I was going to beat this guy, and I did, and it hurt and it sucked. But when I failed, when this guy waxed me, like all week long I was mad, but I knew I was going to see him that following week, and it's like I got to try to fight past that. Like if he's going to beat me up the mountain, he's got to beat me, and that's the competitive side of it. And sometimes that's great, and sometimes like I just want to have fun. But being a racer my whole life, we're always racing, and so sometimes it's hard to go out and have fun because you have the competitive aspect to it. I love it, and I made a lot of great friends that way because sometimes they'll beat me, sometimes I'll beat them. Either way, it's going to make you stronger in the end. And I think people need to look at their goals and try to do whatever they can in order to achieve them without worrying about the cell phone and what people say about it. And the negative stuff, use it as a positive and put it back in their face. I mean, that's all you can really do these days,
When are you happiest these days? What are you doing? What's your
good question? Yeah, I mean,
good wrap-up question.
It's a good wrap-up question. What makes me happy?
Not what makes you happy, because there's probably a lot of things. When are you, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think, when are you happiest?
I'm happiest, I mean, obviously family comes first. I want everything to be obviously great with my family and everything else. But for me, I love doing what I do. I love working. It's getting to work with amazing companies like Maxxis and a bunch of my other clients, and going out and doing photo shoots and getting great images. It's what I love. I mean, my hobby is my job. My passion is my job. And it's been difficult over the last few years because of technology getting as good as it is. A lot of people take a lot of great pictures, and it works for social media. I'm old school. Like when I take photos, everything's calculated, light's measured. I know, I always joke, I'm like, I can't tell you my times tables, but I can tell you camera math, inside, outside, left, right, Kelvins, I can tell you color temperatures and settings and this and that, just because I know it so well. And what makes me happy, I love shooting photos, and I love the people that I meet. I'm happy when I'm on my bike with my friends, again, having that feeling of freedom and not all the pressures of the world and life, and everything else that goes along with it. I mean, to me, this is my happy part. This is what I like to do. You know, this is what I try to appreciate and take in. And these days, it's hard to. We've all gone a lot of dark places during COVID and everything else, and I'm not excluded to that. I mean, between COVID and I lost my dad this year or last year, and yeah, it put me in a dark place, you know, and the goal was how to get out of that, you know, and so it's looking for those happy moments. And again, getting older, you learn more about yourself as you go along, and that's what I've been trying to be better at. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but it's definitely something I'm working towards, you know, is to find those happy moments and take things in and not be so stressed out and crazed about everything else. It's hard, and you know, but I'm trying, and I'm sure everybody else is, you know.
So all we can do is try and keep bettering ourselves, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we have one life to live, and we need to try to take that in and cherish it and absorb it as best we can.
Any closing thoughts, surprises, things you're looking forward to? Anything to wrap up here, Adam?
Again, closing thoughts. I mean, for me, we are talking a lot about safety. You know, I think a lot of drivers. Let's just recap on that because that's the primary reason we're here. And you know, almost every ride I do, we have a close call, and I hate seeing that. And I think drivers and cyclists, they just don't get along. They don't appreciate this side of the road. There's been so many times when I've been literally, there could have been a safe opportunity for a car to pass me, yet they'll buzz me 2 feet away or 3 feet away at 60 miles an hour for no reason. For what? You know, and I would like to see more awareness in the cycling community. You know, we all would. All the cyclists that I talk to want to be safe. So I have a lot of buddies that I ride with that just aren't doing road anymore, that we used to do road all the time because it's getting worse. And I'm seeing it getting worse over the years that I've been riding. And I don't want to say it's a numbers game, but it almost I don't like to think about it that way, even though that's sort of reality. I definitely would just like to see more driver education that gears the everyday driver to cyclist, and that there's nothing protecting us. You know, a motorcycle is dangerous as well, but at least they have power to get away from stuff. We are just sitting there. Our protective equipment, we have a helmet. You know, Lycra just melts off when you hit the ground. There's no protective anything on us. We're exposed to all of the elements. There's nothing really else we can do. We can't gear up. It's just not, no one's gonna do it, and it's just not how we ride. So I think just more education when it comes to cyclists, more commercials maybe, more people like yourself that are going around trying to educate society of the dangers of texting and driving and everything else, you know? I mean, I don't wanna lose my life because somebody had to get a text message, or they're just road raging on cyclists. We've seen that as well. We've seen people try to run us off the road purposely, or people drive by and gas us with a diesel truck, coal rolling. I've had that happen a number of times. And it's vicious, and it's an attack on cycling, you know? I mean, we've had conflicts with cars and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just, we're just here having fun, and this is what we enjoy. Yet every weekend, in the back of my head, I'm just like, you know, please keep me safe. I don't want to go down this way. I don't want my kid not to have a dad because of my sport. Am I going to quit riding because of that? No. I mean, this is my life. This is what I like to do. And I know there are risks. I try to, you know, I have lights on the front of my bike, on the back of my bike, and I only ride in groups. It's like riding by yourself. Hey, I've done it by myself. A couple little things here and there where I feel it's safe, but something like out here, you know, again, this is a very friendly cycling community here, but there's still safety in numbers. And accidents still will happen in numbers, but at least I'm doing everything I can to reduce my visibility as a rider on the road, you know. And even when my wife's driving, when she sees a cyclist now, she'll get all the way over away from them, or if she's not, I'll be like, hey, get over, there's a cyclist, you know. Yeah, I'm that guy because I'm on the bike, you know. And so there needs to be more awareness. Is it gonna do anything? I don't know, people are in their minds, and it might, just like everything else, it might affect them for a day or two, but is it gonna go across their minds all the time? No. It's just like when you lose a pet or a person, a family member, you grieve for however long it takes, but eventually it gets better and it gets better, and you start, that memory doesn't go away, but it's less painful. And I think with cycling and education and stuff like that, it might affect for a little while, but will it stop totally? No, but at least you're doing your part, and hopefully by me talking as a cyclist can do my part to help have some sort of impact on drivers that, like, we're here, we're human, we have families, we have wives, we have kids, we have pets, we have people who love us, and for something so stupid to take that gift of life away because of a message or a drink, to me, is asinine. So, closing thoughts, be aware that, we're here and we're human and we have families, and I know you have to be somewhere, but take that extra second and go around us when it's safe, or don't pass us around a blind turn, which I see on every ride. We'll probably see it today, unfortunately. It takes a second. Just wait 1 second. That is the difference between life and death. 1 second to get around a turn to see where it's open, where you can safely pass. Is that 1 second? That 1 second is priceless. There's no dollar amount that can bring that 1 second back if somebody's dead. And to me, that's, I mean, literally 1 second is worth someone's life. No. So the only thing I can say is, you don't have to be somewhere that bad, or you don't have to answer a message that fast. And so those are, I guess, my closing thoughts on the whole thing with riding and drivers and distractions, whether it's a cell phone or notes, or, I've seen people putting makeup on and looking in the mirror and doing their hair while they're driving. Come on. What was your kid or husband or daughter that was killed because of that? And all lives have been changed across the board for something so senseless.
Well said.
That's
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. No, that was great. Let's go ride.
Hello again. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Adam Campbell. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. He puts out some really impressive work. Just a humble guy, down to earth, and just a pleasure to talk to. ACP Lookbook, and I'll leave that in the show notes so you can follow along. If you listened to the first episode of this podcast, you know that I said these are coming out weekly, but since that was recorded, we've shifted that to every other week, which is called bi-weekly. Fun fact, bi-weekly also means twice a week, and there's no way to distinguish between the two. It doesn't make sense. The English language has quite a few things in it that don't make sense. So it's bi-weekly, but just so there's no confusion, it's every other week, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Make sure to subscribe to Eyes Up Life podcast right here where you're listening to it, and follow Eyes Up Ride and Maxxis Tires on Instagram. Lots of interesting things going on. I'm getting out into the speaking world. If you know someone who would benefit from hearing talk about living Eyes Up, feel free to message me on Instagram or send me an email, ben@eyesupride.com. Thank you. Have a good day, guys. Live Eyes Up. We'll see you soon. Well, you'll listen to me soon. Okay, bye.